What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last decade for you?
That things, first of all, keep getting better. I think in our society, especially as it relates to, as you get older, at least in my family, there was a lot of kind of cultural expectations like, oh, over this age, it kind of starts going down, or you know what I mean? You peak when you're young, and that's when all the good stuff happens. And for me, I feel like it keeps getting better. And I love that the best years are still ahead of me, and that all the stuff that I've been through, there's like all of these exciting new possibilities. So that's one of the biggest lessons. And I think the other one is that I don't have to stress as hard. Like, as a human being, I have a really strong work ethic, but I also tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And the other lesson I've learned is that I don't need to do that the work actually gets done more joyfully and more creatively if I don't add on that additional layer of pressure and stress.
Why do you pressure yourself?
I have really high expectations. I want to take care of my team. I want to take care of my family. I want to do right by my customers. Like with this book, I wanted to do right by my publishing partners. And I always feel a sense of responsibility to make sure that I'm taking care of people. And embedded in that, I have historically put a ton of pressure on myself to make sure, that the buck stops with me. But I think recently it's been really great to see how awesome it is to collaborate with people who are like, girl, I got this. Like, you're good, you go do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we'll create something together that's magic. And I've been like, this is amazing.
Don't stress about it, Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge in the last 10 years?
I think the biggest challenge for me in the past decade, that's a good question.
You started MarieTV, what, 8 years ago? 9?
Yeah, so to put this all in context, so I've been doing what I've been doing for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So creating free content via email, back starting in like 2000, 2001, which seems like
crazy,
insane. Then blogging, and then I got Kuma in 2009. Kuma's my dog, my toy Australian
Sweet
Shepherd.
little dog.
He's a sweet little pup. And here's the thing, when we first got him as a puppy and I was training him along with Josh, I didn't have time to write as many.
Josh?
No, training Kuma along with Josh. Josh knew what he was doing. I was just like, what do I do with a puppy? I didn't have as much time to write blog posts, and so I just started opening my webcam on my MacBook Pro and talking right into the camera.
I remember those early videos.
Yeah, they're still on the site.
Yeah.
And so MarieTV was actually started not because I had some big vision for like a show that I wanted to do. It was actually because I didn't have much time because I had a really cute new puppy and I needed to get consistent content out, and I felt much more comfortable and it was faster to talk into my webcam than it was to construct a blog post. So that's how MarieTV started back in like 2009/2010.
So it's been almost 10 years. It'd be 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think one of the challenges of the past decade has just been to continue to stay really present with all of the work while continuing to grow the company, like making sure that folks on the team have the support that they need, making sure that we're attracting the right talent, people that have the right skills, the right culture fit, and just keeping all those plates in the air. And then of course still having a life and making sure my relationship, stays on track.
How do you stay on track with a connected, loving relationship as a female entrepreneur when you're putting so much energy into your business and the culture and the team and your customers? And
I made so many mistakes. I mean, let's just be real. Like I talk about this, and I've told this story, like I worked so hard to get my business off the ground, and I was often working 7 days a week, not just coaching, like that was a portion of what I did, but to keep a roof over my head, it was bartending, it was waiting tables, it was like being a personal assistant, cleaning people's toilets, whatever I needed to do in order to pay my rent, put food on the table and actually continue to grow the business. So I basically developed a habit of working nonstop. And
before MarieTV.
Oh yeah, like getting the business off the ground. I worked side
gigs.
Like
a fitness coach, you did like dance instructions, you did everything.
I was a Nike Elite dance athlete. I, taught anywhere from like 3 to 7 classes a week at Crunch Fitness. Some of them were choreographed, some of them were basic fitness. I had the coaching clients, I was doing the content, and I was bartending and waiting tables. So I had developed this habit of nonstop work because that was what was necessary at that time.
New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as Josh and I, got together, and eventually when I let go of the bartending and the waiting tables and even the dance and fitness as a revenue stream, I didn't let go of the habit of working nonstop. And that created some real problems in the relationship, where it was to the point that him and I had been together for 7 years and never taken a vacation together.
Wow.
Like, we had traveled because either he had something for his work or I had something for my work, but it was always work related. So it wasn't actual just together time, just him and I. And our relationship was almost over. Like, he was kind of done with me.
Wow. Because you were just, I want to work, I got to build my business, you don't understand me, this is my dream.
I was operating too out of a lot of scarcity and a lot of just habit, like feeling like if I didn't work constantly, that it was all going to fall apart. And so there were other things mixed in there as well. There were other layers of just life pressures from all these different ends. But that was like a definite, a critical piece.
He had a son.
Oh, yeah.
And,
so my stepson Zane came into my life when he was 7. So the year that Josh and I kind of, one of the times, we've had many bumps along the road. We've been together for 16 years. Any couple that's been together that long, it's not all unicorns and
perfect.
rainbows. No, absolutely not. Relationships are so difficult. But at that particular juncture, Zane was going off to college, which that was a really big thing in terms of Josh processing that, having your kid go off after you've raised them, and then me working all the time. There was this confluence of stressors that put us in couples therapy, and I had to really change a lot about how I was living, what I was believing, and really putting things back into perspective, which, saved our relationship.
What were you believing?
Well, I was believing that if I didn't work constantly, that I wasn't a worthy person, that I wasn't doing enough to make my business successful, that I was perhaps letting people down. And so I had to really shift that and understand that, I come from a background, I don't come from a wealthy background. So the work ethic in my nuclear family is very strong. Like, my dad owned a small business. My mom, although she stayed home with us, she was constantly doing stuff, constantly working, constantly fixing things, constantly doing things that took care of the family. So that's the kind of DNA I grew up with, was like, no, if something needs to get done, you get it done.
Yeah.
It's not like you sit around all day and eating bonbons and watching TV.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of how I got there. But then I had to readjust if I actually wanted to not only have a successful business, but have a successful life.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming you get asked this a lot by other
Sometimes.
women. Do you ever feel pressure or judged or whatever, critiqued because you don't have kids yet? And I think you don't want to have kids. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it is. So I want to actually hit on all of those, because each that you mentioned, pressured, judged, or critiqued.
Yeah.
So let's stick with pressured, judged, or critiqued, because those are very distinct flavors.
Yes.
So at this stage, I don't get asked as much anymore, because I've been talking about it so consistently and trying to be as loving and just straight up as possible about the fact that I've never wanted kids. And real about the fact that I chose, consciously or unconsciously, a man who already had a child. So some part of me clearly wanted to be a stepmom because I am.
Right.
And I love my stepson, and he's awesome. So there's that. But I've never wanted to have my own biological kids.
Why is that, do you think?
I've also never wanted to get married. I just think that we're all kind of born with these innate desires, and sometimes we adopt the expectations of our family, of society, of the culture that we grow up in. For whatever reason, I feel like I popped onto this earth with a very clear inner compass of the things that I would like to explore or learn or experience, and also a very clear compass of those things which I just am not interested in. I don't not want it for other people. It's almost like when you go to a beautiful buffet, right? And you walk up and you're like, oh my goodness, there's these vegetables, and oh, there's these desserts and these possibilities. You don't necessarily take from every option that's there. You're naturally attracted to some things over the other. And so in my life, I've always known what I want to go after. And the little plate that have children And the little plate that's like, get married
was not in your...
I just was like, that's not for me.
Not desirable.
It's not my path. Yeah. And so earlier on in my life, I had many people tell me that I'm making the worst mistake ever, that I'm gonna regret it.
Both marriage and baby, not having babies and not being
Mostly
married?
babies.
Yeah.
Mostly babies. Was that I was gonna, reach some age and just absolutely hate myself, and like it would be the biggest mistake of my life, that I was gonna die alone. And I'm like, I'm gonna die alone anyway.
We're all dying alone.
That's exactly right.
We're not holding hands, dying with someone crossing
likely
over.
not, unless, God forbid, a plane goes down. Yeah. Right. So there was that in terms of, so the feeling judged about it and criticized. Let's go into those pockets because that's interesting to me. I have had folks, and I can understand this, so I do understand it, but I think that there is just room to explore it and have a discussion. When it comes to having a conversation around productivity, having a conversation around business growth, having a conversation around priorities, and people can be very bold and courageous on like an Instagram comment where they wouldn't be nearly so, if you were sitting across the table and just having a conversation, it was like, well, it's easy for you to say, those of us that have kids. And I'm like, now all of a sudden, anything that comes out of my mouth is all of a sudden without merit because I have not given biological birth to a child through my vagina. Yeah. Like, really? Right. Is that where we're going to take this? Oh, and by the way, let's take a look at other folks that I have worked with who have 7 kids, 8 kids, who say, oh, I found value in this principle, and here's how I made this idea work in the context of my life. So I think that it's really interesting to have someone judge another person for their choices. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that it's...
So how do you handle being judged for that or for anything?
Oh, I give absolutely no
attention.
F's.
Right, yeah, you don't care.
I don't, because, the more you care about what other people think, the more they own you.
The more power they have over you.
Yeah, and it's like, I want people to win. That's who I am as a person. I want people to win. I want them to be well. I want them to be successful. If there's anything that I could possibly share, that even a tiny nugget of what I share helps them become more of who they want to be, then I feel I have done my job successfully. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. No way. Yeah. No one has all the answers. But I do believe that what we create in our company and the programs we put together and the things that we share help people find their own answers. So I don't care. Yeah. I really don't care, because if someone is going to take the time to either make that comment or that judgment, my perspective would be that there's something in their own life that's not working that puts them in that position of feeling a sense of pain or feeling like they have to judge someone else to justify what's happening in their own life. Yeah. I just don't think that gets any of us anywhere.
So what do you do when people are judging you online, or do you just delete? Do you just leave it and don't respond? Do you just say thank you for the feedback and move on?
If it depends, I think contextually. Like if someone has a different opinion and they express it respectfully, amazing. Yeah. If someone's being hateful and trying to incite other people into a space of negativity and there's no basis in fact, there's no desire to have a meaningful conversation, again, depending on where it is. Like we have a very, very clear and strong boundary in our programs. Like there's like a zero negativity, zero drama, zero bullshit policy that we have. Because no one can learn if they're in an unsafe environment. And if you feel like, expressing an opinion or just kind of taking people down this drama-filled road, that's not why we're here. In the context of my business, in the context of trying to help people gain skills and understandings. Yeah. It's like, if you want to go have contentious conversations,
go do it with a group of people.
Do it on your own page. Yeah, exactly. Go do it on your living room, or go hold a community gathering. Invite people, correct, or whatever, but not in the learning environment that you have entrusted me to support you in. That's not about to happen. But on public pages, again, if it's just someone who actually just wants to have a meaningful conversation, which is, the exception, not the rule, let's have that meaningful conversation. But if it's someone who's just looking to kind of take a dump in your living room and stir the shit, I'm like, nah. Yeah. Nah, not interested.
So how do you navigate your relationship let's say, I don't know if Josh wants to get married or not, but if he wanted to get married at some point,
Yeah.
like 10 years down the line, he was like, you know what, I just really want to be married.
Yeah.
Would that be something you'd be open to or changing your mind about?
Yeah.
And what if he's like, I really want to have another kid?
Yeah, we've had the kid conversation, so I'm very clear on that one. Yeah, because I think that it's important, especially for couples, I think it's important to have those real conversations about.
Early.
Yes. So we tackled that one.
Okay.
And we talked about it, and he was really loving and open with me, like, hey, especially, after being together 16 years in the early part, he's like, if you change your mind and want to have kids, like, I would love to have a kid with you. Wow. So but he's like, but I don't feel like I have my son, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a father already, so there was no.
It's not pressuring you.
No,
That's
it was
great.
just more like the open invitation. And then in terms of marriage, I don't like to say never to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to be honest about my truth in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But if there came a point in the future where something in me goes like, I'm super into this, and he was like, I'm super into this too, let's do it, that very well could happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm super open with that. But what I love about our relationship is we throw it on the table and we talk about it.
Everything.
Yes.
All the time. I think that's the best way to do it.
It's the only way, because we human beings are complex. And expecting another person to just capitulate to your desires or what you really, it's like, it doesn't honor their individuality. And I really believe that there is a way to nurture and love and support the growth of the person that you love without pressuring them consciously or subconsciously to bend at your will.
Right, or manipulative or passive aggressive in some ways to get them to do something they don't want to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for us, and the last thing I'll say on this, like in terms of a romantic relationship, the most important things to me, like, do we actually love each other? Do we respect each other? Mm-hmm. Are we loyal to one another? Is there love and passion? Do we feel a sense of intimacy and connection? You know what I mean? It's like on a day-to-day basis, are we waking up so excited to be with one another? Not that it's always that way, but I'm just talking the vast majority of the time. Is shit on track? And if it is, in my book, winning.
You're winning, yeah.
Super winning.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're 80% of the time, things are positive.
Correct.
And pretty smooth. It's pretty good.
And you still love that person. You want to be with them. So like with Josh, it's like, he is my human. He is my person. We love our lives together. And when our work takes us, we're like, okay, what's our next adventure together? Or like, when do we get to see each other? Or we switch our plans so that we have that night together. If it was going to be 3 weeks of going in different directions, and I'll be like, I will fly home, even if it's just for dinner or whatever. Or, do you know what I mean?
That's cool.
But that to me means more than a marriage certificate. Again, this is just
your personal truth.
This is my own personal truth, not for other people.
Of course.
Just for me.
Where do you think you'd be if you were single the last 10 years?
Oh my goodness.
Like, would your business be as successful, do you think? Again, we're just...
I know it's hypotheticals.
Do you think, I don't know, you'd be distracted, or where do you think you would be?
It's a great question. I don't know the honest answer to that, but I would be lying if I didn't say that the love and the depth of trust and connection that we have together, it's impossible that hasn't positively impacted my business.
Yeah.
Being single these past 10 years, like sometimes I honestly will go out and about and I look up and I'm like, thank you, sweet Jesus, to that I am not kind of out on the scene. I just, you know, and like bless people that are, and I hope for everyone who wants love to have love and to find love in the form that's good for them. But I'm just real happy. So I don't even know.
Do you think your business would be,
as
profitable and successful?
To be really honest, it could go either way. Like depending on how wild and crazy I got over those last 10 years, I could envision a version where it wasn't, but I could also envision a version that it was actually technically more successful. Who knows?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It could have been like
more financially successful
or something. Just because you know why? Because I didn't take those exactly.
Just didn't take a break.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's as possible, as the other one.
Do you know any examples of individuals who have extremely successful brands, careers, or businesses who are single after 40, where they have healthy businesses and they are happy. Do you have any friends like that, like females, males like that, who are single
and
or
really
not married, no kids, and they're just crushing and happy and fulfilled?
I don't. I was thinking about a friend that I have who is in her 60s, who is not married, but now recently has a boyfriend, but she also does have a child, but it's an adult child. And she's very happy and she's very satisfied with her life.
She's been single for a while?
She was single for a very good portion of her adult life, and only within the last year has a new boyfriend.
And she did really well.
And she did really well. And she's amazingly happy. So that's one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think. Most of my other dear friends are in some type of partnership marriage.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that, because I think about the men that I admire the most. They're typically in a committed marriage or some type of committed relationship.
Yes.
And their businesses take off when they have that support.
Yeah.
As opposed to just the distractions that are out in the world.
Yeah. I think there's something settling that happens for us when we have someone that we want to devote our love to and invest in that person and who they are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
I do.
This book came about, I think, from an Oprah talk that you did 3 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. Is that what it was?
The idea I'd been talking about for
a while,
for like 2 decades.
But your mom taught you this when you were younger, growing up.
Yep.
But then you did a speech on it,
Yep.
which I saw, which was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, here in LA. And everyone's been asking you to do a book for a decade, and you finally decided to do one.
Yes.
Why do you feel like you wanted to do one now? And why this topic and not something else?
So the why now piece was a lot about trusting myself. You know, when I think any of us have opportunities knocking at the door, it can feel easy to be like, oh, I need to say yes because, you know, this window of opportunity isn't going to be open long, or this is going to help me quote unquote get ahead, or, you know, I need to make sure I still maintain my edge and get out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's been a big lesson for me is to always trust my own timing and not the exterior pressures of the world. And when those calls kept coming in, like, we need a book from you, let's do a business book, let's do whatever book, I was like, no, it doesn't. It feels like there's a seed that's been planted. And just like a real life plant, you know, that seed takes some time. You have to water it. There needs to be the right nutrients in the soil, needs to be the right weather. And then even as the seedling comes up out of the ground, you can't tug on it too fast to get it to bloom faster. You know what I mean? Like you have to nurture it.
Yeah.
And it has to take the time it takes to come into its full possibility. And that's how I felt with this book. I had known that there was a big idea I wanted to write about. When Oprah and her team had asked me to speak at Super Soul Sessions, the first thought about what the title of the talk would be was Everything is Figureoutable. And then I had appeared in my mental theater, this is your book. Like it wasn't even like it was a decision. It was like the seedling had come up and go, this is me. Now you are going to be ready to, you know what I mean? So, but the bigger reason in terms of an exterior reason, there's 2 things. One, we have a lot of challenges collectively happening right now. You know, there's over 350 million people around the world that suffer from depression. Their suicide rates in the United States are at a 30-year high. You know, that speaks nothing of the economic, political, pollution, thinking about every level of inequality and injustice that impacts us. So we've got a lot of problems that both individually and collectively we need to solve. And I ran into a mutual friend of ours, Toby, who runs Shopify. I think you know him. I was actually working on the manuscript at like a restaurant in New York, and he walked in and I was like, oh my goodness, because he's from Canada. I'm like, what are you doing here? And we caught up and he's like, why are you writing a book? You're so busy with the rest of your business. It's not like you need to write a book. And this is what I told him. I said, Toby, honestly, I feel like if I were to walk out in the street right now and I got hit by a bus, this is the one idea that I would want to leave behind. From every MarieTV, from everything I've ever done, I feel like if I can somehow communicate this idea in a book form in a way that people can really get, that I could leave and go to that next chapter being like, peace, y'all, I did my thing, right? Like, I'm fine, I'm good. So that's the reason I wanted to write this book, because I feel like every single one of us has such innate wisdom and so many capabilities that we're not even fully aware of.
Yeah.
And that if I could write about this simple 3-word phrase that has helped me at every single stage of my life and continues to help me to this day, I still use it every day, that it would give people a tool that could serve them regardless of where they come from, regardless of their age, regardless of their economic background, regardless of their cultural background, because it's so simple. It's not complex.
Simple.
I joked because I struggled a lot through the writing process.
You're like, it's so simple.
It's so simple. Well, I remember like at points kind of tearing my hair out, feeling so terrible, like I'm a bad writer and I don't know if any of this is good. And going like this, I made the joke. I was like, can't we just write a book with everything is figure outable on the cover and then there's blank pages throughout? That's it. That like on a very kind of joking but meta level, like this is all you need to know.
That's it. Yeah.
It was to the point that him and I had been together for 7 years and never taken a vacation together.
Wow.
Like we had traveled because either he had something for his work or I had something for my work, but it was always work related. So it wasn't actual just together time, just him and I.